Hey, welcome. And as you can see, today we're talking about The Shining, and in particular, we're going to look at the meaning of that strange unplugged TV that Danny and Wendy are watching in one scene. In fact, we're going to take a look at all the televisions in The Shining, because actually, there are quite a few scenes here with TVs in them, and I'm sure there must be a reason why. Now, in the first scene, we meet Danny and Wendy eating lunch. There's actually a TV on in the background, which Danny is watching while he's eating, though it's off screen. We don't see it. Sounds like it's a Roadrunner cartoon, though. The next TV we see is also in the apartment with Danny and Wendy, and it's significantly the first instance of shining in the film, too, as Danny, looking in the mirror and talking to his imaginary friend Tony, he predicts that Jack already got the job and would be calling Wendy to tell her. And that's exactly what happens a minute later. There's a TV on in the background here, and it appears to be some sort of outdoors show, possibly a Western. The next TV we see is in the kitchen at the Overlook, where Wendy is apparently making, I think, lunch, where she is emptying out a huge can of fruit cocktail. But on the TV is a news story about a woman who disappeared while on a hunting trip with her husband. It's very suggestive she may have been killed by her husband, but it isn't explicitly stated. Then we come to this eerie scene where Danny and Wendy are watching a TV in a brightly lit room, but look closely. This TV isn't plugged in. It's not something you would notice at first, but in these sort of old types of TVs, they would definitely need to be plugged in, so this TV shouldn't be on, it shouldn't be working, and it shouldn't be playing a movie. It's eerie. Also, side note, the film on the TV is a 1971 film called Summer of 42, a sort of coming-of-age film set in Nantucket in 1942. But earlier in the film, we saw Danny actually wearing a shirt with the number 42 on the sleeve, and it was during the very first episode of Shining in the film. As we said before, it's significant, but it's a strange detail. The next TV we see is actually in Mr. Halloran's apartment, and it's a weather report about the dangerous snow conditions in Colorado, and the governor may declare a state of emergency. But again, we get an episode of Shining as Mr. Halloran sees a vision of Danny in trouble in room 237. He knows he has to go and help. Next, we see another TV, this time with Larry at Durkin's garage. It appears to be a cartoon on the TV with the sound off. Not the last time we see a cartoon on a TV in this film. Again, we get another Roadrunner cartoon here with Danny and Wendy that we can hear in the background just like before. Note the Winnie the Pooh bear in the background on the chair and the baseball bat, which Wendy is soon to pick up. We don't see the TV here, but we can hear it. Also, Danny is starting to look and act traumatized as he continues talking in the voice of his imaginary friend Tony. Immediately after this, Wendy finds Jack's book, quote unquote, that he's been writing, and realizes he must be crazy. As she backs away from Jack holding the baseball bat, Danny has another shining episode where he sees the elevator covered in blood with the furniture floating around the river of blood. He also sees the word red rum on the door. We also can't help but notice that the TVs, when they're on, kind of have a light shining out from inside them too. In a way, the TVs are also shining. And more than one character here has a psychic episode either during or right after the TV is on. It's like the TVs are psychic catalysts for the more sensitive characters in the film, like Danny and Mr. Halloran. I want to acknowledge when the TV was actually shut off in one scene. Danny seemed to actually have a trance-like episode where he wrote "Red Rum" on the door, so strange things keep happening near the TVs. Now, this image is actually not from a Kubrick film, but if you notice, the TV isn't plugged in. This is from a 1966 film by Swedish director Ingmar Bergman called Persona. It's a sort of deep dive avant-garde drama shot in black and white and was definitely groundbreaking at the time it came out. Why am I mentioning it? Because this film was said to be an influence on Stanley Kubrick for The Shining, and not just with some of the psychological horror elements, but right here, with an unplugged TV in one scene. So let's start to sum up. There are quite a few scenes in The Shining with TVs in them, and although it might seem mundane, Kubrick would definitely have put it in there for a reason. So, what is that reason? Well, I think the TVs in some scenes are definitely acting as a psychic catalyst for some of the gifted and sensitive characters to have their visions and episodes of shining, in particular for Danny and Mr. Halloran. In that respect, the TVs might be acting almost as a medium to connect to the spirit world. Also, the TVs seem to be involved in some foreshadowing of traumatic events, as Danny and Mr. Halloran both have visions of terrible things that could happen either during or right after watching a TV. TVs are oddly involved in many of the visionary shining episodes in the film, and maybe that's a visual pun by Kubrick, since the TVs themselves glow from the inside. The TVs are also shining, especially the unplugged one, since there's also a halo of light surrounding this TV. This scene is eerie, yet full of light. It's the opposite of a haunted house, and one of the reasons The Shining is genius. Well, that's my new video about the TVs in The Shining, especially that unplugged one. Hope you liked it. I'm already working on something for next week, which I hope to have up soon. Also, it would really help out my channel if you did subscribe. But either way, my name is Shim. Thank you for spending time with me, and have a great day.
24-year-old Susan Robertson has been missing 10 days. She disappeared while on a hunting trip with her husband. They have good weather right now, but they may have to call off the search if a predicted snowstorm moves in tomorrow.